All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Aaron Elder. I'm the head of the throws room. I was not able to be here yesterday, but I'm super happy to be here today. We are hosted this year by RP Young Sports, owned and operated by Pete Robinette. So check those guys out in the vendors area if you have a chance. I've never ever had this happen. Yesterday when I left Wyndham, my car is parked kind of in the back. I loop around right by our track and field area, and I see kids on our track training. Yesterday, track is open. We don't have hardly any snow. I think if you were here a year ago right now, it was about 25 below zero, if you remember that. So, hope everybody's having as fantastic a winter as we are down south in southern Minnesota. Last drawing will be between first and second session, so if you've entered any of the drawings with the vendors, that'll be between first and second session. In our last two sessions of the day, Maggie and Bruce Ewan are presenting. We're going to combine those two. So the third session is the one that's right after lunch, and we'll roll right from the third session to the fourth session, maybe a 5-minute break, or if you need to go to the bathroom, you can just pick up and do that quick while Maggie and Bruce maybe make a couple quick changes, but we'll roll right into that so we don't have to be here quite so late, and or we want to keep everybody here as long as possible. So if you're attending those last two, that'll kind of be the plan, and that's still okay with you guys? So yes. We have a fantastic group of throw speakers this year. I feel super lucky to be able to hang out with these guys and call these guys friends and peers. We also have a fantastic community, so please, we run the gamut from first-year coaches in the throws that have never picked up a shot put, never picked up a discus before, to 29-year vet old guys like me with gray hair who think we've seen everything but haven't seen everything yet. I'm still sure there's still something new out there, but please lean on not only our speakers, but lean on the veterans in the room. We're all willing and able to answer questions. We're all very willing to continue to pay things forward in the throws. I want to see your kids throw far, even if I'm competing against them. Coach for Murray County Central is here. I want to see his kids throw far, even though he is from Slayton. I want to see his kid. I'm a former Fulda grad, Fulda and Slayton, back and forth for like Minnesota and Wisconsin. So I want to see your kids throw far. It doesn't matter if they're wearing green and white, blue and gold, orange and black. It doesn't matter. I want to see your kids throw far, and that's kind of the atmosphere we're trying to build. First up for today, we're going to take a trip back in time to 1953 and talk a little bit of glide. So our glide coach, Joe agrees with me. I'm not. This isn't pulling wool over anybody.
Oh, you just wait what you got me into here.
Exactly. Yep. But on the flip side of that, the farthest high school kid I've ever coached on the girls and women's side was a glider. So Joe Frontier is here to give us some information on the glide. Joe is our coach at Madison Throws Club in Wisconsin. Joe is at Madison Memorial, right?
Got it. Nice.
High school. Fantastic, vast knowledge, super charismatic and enthusiastic about the throws. So let's give a big Minnesota welcome to Joe Frontier.
What's up?
Hey.
Thanks for waking up. I remember my first Wisconsin clinic, which was a long time ago, and our whole coaching staff went, and I'm not a drinker, but my staff was really talented in that aspect. And so the dilemma was like, on Saturday morning, do you go to the first session? And I'm all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, I'm up, and like I knock on the door, silent, and I knock on the next door, silent. I'm going on my own. So thanks for waking up this morning. Appreciate it. I don't know what you guys' talents live last night. I'm glad you're here. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to all of you for coming and wanting to get better at throwing. I couldn't agree, thank you Aaron for having me here, with Aaron more. My favorite thing is to see throwers throw far. And I live in a weird world where I coach a huge group at Madison Memorial High School, and then I coach the Throws Club, and we get to state, and I have 2 kids from my high school, and last year, 18 of the 24 Division I qualifiers were all Throws Club kids that I coach, and so my girls like competing against all these girls that I coach year-round. And so I want everyone to throw far. Certainly I want my kids at my high school to throw far, but Iron iron sharpens iron. We were talking about that too this morning. I said this yesterday, my coach Bruce Hammond in the top left-hand corner passed away a few years ago. He was my high school coach. There's no way I'm standing here if he hadn't inspired me to just want to learn. And so the fact that you guys are here wanting to learn, and I hope I can pass something forward to them. All my coaching peers like Aaron, I've learned so much from the people that I get to stand next to at all these craft meets and the clinics that I go to and rubbing elbows with people like Maggie and some of the great people from Throws North Club that I got to hang out with last night. Coaching our athletes is what it's all about, and thanks to my wife and family. Like I said before, I coach a lot of kids at both high schools, and that's an interesting thing. Someone asked me a question yesterday. How do I get away with that? I think how it was phrased. I don't know. I literally just want people to be successful, and so the fact that I've been a tiny contributor in a lot of people's success brings me a lot of joy, and so it makes it easy for me to cheer for all these kids. I got so many questions about this yesterday, and so if you are interested in joining Ryan Whiting, Scott Kapos, and I, we have this educational resource. It's called Thrower X. There's hours and hours and hours and hours of video on their courses and drills and why, and us breaking down throws and some of the best throwers in the world, sharing some information about their throwing technique. So if you want to hold up your phone, you want to click on that, and if you use X10, you can get a discount to join us, and you can do a monthly membership and cancel whenever you want. Just to see what's on there. So thanks for those of you who are interested. Probably more readily available, Madison Throws Club at Gmail if you need to email me, and I'll put this slide up on at the end if you miss it. Anyone listen to podcasts? I asked this yesterday. Thanks so much for people who are listening. If you're not a podcast person, Sports Illustrated just died. I don't know. Podcasting seems like the way people are getting more information. And this has been an absolute love affair of a project. Maggie's been on the show. The best of the best of the best. I've had the opportunity and privilege to talk with and pry knowledge out of them and be able to share their stories. And so the best coaches in the world, the best throwers in the world. I'm at a point where I don't have enough time to get to all the people on a seasonal basis that I'd like to. And so, I don't know when I'm going to get to, but would you be on the show? And yes, and then I put them on a list, and I'm working through it. So if you are a listener and there's someone you haven't heard yet, let me know. I'm continually adding to that list, and it's been a great privilege to do that. Okay, glide shot put. Shit, Aaron. What did you give me into here? Okay, so I have to admit, how many people coach the glide? How many people coach rotational shot? How many people coach both? How many people would prefer to coach rotational shot? How many people prefer to coach the glide? How many people didn't answer that? That's a trick question. You answered that. Okay, so in my perfect world, I would make all my throwers rotational throwers. Here's why. You guys live in Minnesota? I live in Wisconsin. Aaron just said there's no snow out there. We're totally fine. At some point, we're going to get a whole bunch of snow, yes? And then it's going to delay our season. And so to me, while there are enormous differences in the glide, or in the rotational shot and the rotational disc, at the high school level, do we really need to talk about that when we're just on-ramping them about balance and spatial awareness and the general path of the throw, and giving them bigger circles and where the implement is and angles and all that stuff later on? But to me, to coach one rotational theory gets me a whole bunch of knowledge into a kid who, while they're waiting to go throw discus, can then get to discus, and we do a lot of discus indoors. My first years, I was just shot. Discus is 5 weeks away. We'll just focus on the shot, and then, we got smashed in the discus for a couple of seasons, and then we train a lot of discus. So in the grand scheme of things, I would prefer just to coach everyone rotational. But we don't live in that grand scheme. We live in high school. We're going to have these kids and these kids and these kids, and they're not all going to be able to rotate. So once I take kids through rotational drills, I usually peel them off and we'll glide some kids. So who are those kids? If you start everyone as a glider, raise your hand. You're not wrong, it's okay. So those of you who didn't raise your hand, look at the safety you could have fallen into and followed those other people over the road. I know you were great. I think it's okay. We were talking about maybe feels like maybe my finish would be a little bit better had I glided at some point. We don't know that, so we're not going to go back in time and try that. I talked with Mitch Krauser on the podcast just last week, and he thinks the finish of Ryan Krauser's throw is dramatically impacted by the fact that he spent a lot of years gliding. And if you watch him throw, it looks very different, say, from Joe Kovacs or Tom Walsh, who was always a rotator. Their finishes look very different, almost like Ryan Krauser's doing an event and Tom Walsh is doing an event. They just happen to be in a circle with a little board in the front, but they look like different events if you really look closely. Nathan Ott, coach at Penn State, I think he was saying, so the difference between rotational techniques now, the vast variety of rotational techniques, are more different than when rotational shot was just first introduced, the difference between glide and rotational shot back in the 50s and 60s. So if you want to think about that, if you just think everyone rotates the same, you should really get into kind of the technical analysis of that. Anyway, Aaron made me talk about the glide. That was my long preamble too. I haven't presented on the glide for like 15 years, and so actually, Aaron, I say thank you because this is kind of cool to like really kind of like go back and like why do I coach some kids in the glide? And so here's my list. If you're going to take notes today, maybe this is the best I can do for you. We'll get into some more stuff, but if you've got super strong athletes and have them glide, that's going to translate pretty well. You've got to be strong to move the ball far from a 7-foot circle. They're going linear in 7 feet. Rotational throwers, we can get into the semantics of it, but they're going to push on the ball for 13 feet as they rotate. So can you create that amount of force production and accelerate a ball far in a short amount of time? So if you've got super strong kids, if you have kids that are never going to throw the discus, maybe they do other events or they just like, I don't like the discus. Maybe they're just going to be a glider. Then you don't have to deal with 2 technical models, although you have to coach 2 technical models if you're going to coach other kids than just that kid. Part-time throwers, sprinters who come over and they wander over, do you have the time to invest to make them rotational throwers? Maybe they're gliders. Late arrivals, and we'll see a late arrival. I had a kid who was a hurdler, made the state as a sophomore as a hurdler on a couple of relays. Didn't make it to state his junior year on the hurdles and was an alternate for a relay. And then weighed like 240 and why are you still trying to sprint? Like you're getting slower as you've gotten bigger. He's playing football now in college. So anyway, he came to me and he's like, I want to throw this year. And so we made him a glider, didn't throw the discus, and he still tried to sprint for like half the season. That was my choice. Kids who struggle rotationally. How many people have you had a kid rotate and they look terrible? How long do you want to beat your head against the wall with that kid, or do you need to show them some success? I think Tim said it yesterday, like if you do things because that's what like this is my model, those kids might just wander off and they quit. They haven't shown them the path of the on-ramp to kind of feel any success, and so they don't like it anymore. So I would watch out for that, those strugglers. And that's usually what I do. Once they start struggling and they're not feeling it anymore, I'm like, well, let's try the glide, why not? Can't hurt. Technique adverse. That's as nice as I could say that one. You got those kids? If you have a nicer way to say that, you let me send it in an email. I'll add it to the slide. Okay. Mentally fragile, and I also try not to be mean about this, but there are just some kids. Let's be honest, there are kids you're going to have who rotate and they feel like a rock star and they just do 40 feet and they're going to have a meet where they scratch 2 rotational throws the next day or a week later and throw 32 on their 3rd throw and they don't make the finals and the end of the world is happening, right? And so, why are you making me rotate? Can I go back to the glide? All that shit. I have had kids make one decision to stop rotating and switch to glide. And I will allow that in a season depending on the kid. or how much I brainwash them. If I really believe that's the path, and then I gotta talk about long-range planning and like, where do you really want to get to? And Maggie was very eloquent in that talk, and Bruce kind of laid that out yesterday. I thought that was a really great anecdote about thinking long-term. And do you have kids who buy into that? Sometimes you're gonna have a kid who, they can't buy into anything that's more than 15 minutes away. Maybe glide's the path. It seems like an easier task. If you're not a full-time coach, like half your week is at the high jump or something like that, do you have the time to invest in coaching rotational throwers? It takes more time. It takes more time. I just really believe that. And then coaches not confident with rotational shot. I'm not going to make you raise your hand because that would be mean. But I will say this, there's more resources on planet Earth for throwers and throws coaches than there ever have been on the entire planet. There's also a lot of shitty resources, just watch out for who you tap into. But what I would say is this, I don't think that should be an excuse anymore. Like, I just feel like if you are passionate about getting better as a coach, there's so much information. And I think Aaron and I were talking about this yesterday, but when we have a coaching opening on our coaching staff, we have 250 kids up for track. So we have 8 or 10 coaches that are paid, and we have volunteers. Finding a person, a human who wants to work with young people, who can communicate well, and we could probably get you the technical stuff you need to learn and take advantage of your assets as a people person, and then go seek the information it takes to get better at coaching rotational shot. So there's my two cents on mostly athletes, but a little bit of just coaching things. Any questions about maybe that something that falls in between the line of when you have this decision?
When you say late arrivals, how like if we're talking only seniors late arrival, or can it be like end of their junior year? Is that a late arrival? What do you consider?
I had a kid sophomore year who was a sprinter and a pretty darn good sprinter. He was like 6'3", looked like a sprinter, but was a sturdier sprinter than normal. Had the worst shin splints ever and was just hating sprinting and was physically going to be able to either not run the rest of the season or not. And we're 6 weeks into the season, sophomore year. And so I'm like, you're not going to throw the discus right now. We just don't have enough time to get you up to speed in that. And he wanted to try shot put, and I was like, let's try gliding. And it took. And then I asked him after his sophomore season, do you want to try rotational? And he said, I would like to stay with the glide. And so we glided junior and senior year. So that kind of late arrival where it's like he missed 5 weeks of us drill progressions inside, and I treated like a karate dojo. We're in like rows and columns.
Yep.
And he missed all that stuff.
Yep.
It's like, all right, we're gonna push on the ball, and let's just push on this ball. He's over in the corner, we're practicing like normal humans, and so it's like, the day 2, it's like, all right, you turn your right foot, right? And so that's the kind of time I had to invest in him at that point in the season, as opposed to like, all right, here's a 90-degree or 90-degree turn. We just didn't have time for that. Okay, so thanks to Aaron, I went to recent history. So here are my last 3 successful gliders. And the first 2 were last year, which is kind of cool. And this Khalees is a sophomore, and I don't think I can make this happen for my thing. I begged her to come out as a freshman, and she didn't. And then sophomore year, she said, I'm going to come out, but I'm going to miss the first week of practice. Knives in my heart. And so she came out the second week, and so we start March. Our first day is March 4th, so whatever that translated to last year. So she came out like the second week of March, and here's her first meet. This is how far we got, and yep, you guys seen that one before? Right? We all have these kids, and she had this terrible knee. She had played basketball. Well, at the end of the season, she was on the basketball team, could no longer play basketball because this knee was just a mess and she was going to need surgery. I've never had a kid shuffle in a meet, and after watching her throw 22 feet, I was like, we have to do something more than like power position. I can't stomach that for that long. But 7 weeks later, she threw 39.7 and was 5th in the state with this shuffle thing, with this right toe turned that's all, as much as we could get out of that right knee. And, you know, we'll take it, right? Let's get kids to fall in love with our sport. She hated basketball because it hurt. So she didn't play basketball this year, and we'll see what that knee is allowed to do. I have grand dreams of turning her into a real glider, but we were working together in the weight room last week, and I feel as though we'll have a second-year version of this shuffle shit. I don't have a name for that. Sorry for my Okay, so this is Joe. Here's my sprinter that got too big to be a hurdler and a sprinter. So this is the first indoor meet. He's a captain of our team and had no event left because he was not going to make the relays, and he could not be a hurdler anymore. So this is the first meet last year, March 16th. So this is 2 weeks in, and I'm sure you've seen something that kind of looks like that. Oh God. The twirly, the not, I'm not reversing, coach. It's like, you're telling me. So that was the first meet, and 41 feet. I mean, this is a powerful kid, and it's just like, you know, if we time under tension, if we get this kid enough reps, you know, he could do some things. So he just kept getting better, and I think by the conference meet, he had thrown 50 feet. He threw 51 feet for the sectional, and 52-2, and was 11th in the top 10 make the final at state. He missed the final by 1 spot. And I wish we had more time, right? It's one of those I wish kind of stories. But in what is this, 10 weeks, there's a progress, right? Rotational, and here's why I'm showing you this, not to brag that Joe got to 52-2. I don't think he throws 52-2 rotationally in 10 weeks, as strong as he was. And mostly because he was also throwing the discus, and that looked like horse's ass. So, I mean, all the signs were saying I'm not going to be a rotational thrower, at least in the time given to build a rotational model with him. Does that make sense? Okay, so here's probably my most successful kid who, but she missed a COVID year. So this is Riyadh. She's a senior at Grand Valley State University and is throwing there. Riyadh's pretty near and dear to me. She doesn't have a family, so this kid's like an extra member of our family. And this is her first meet as a freshman, 30 feet, 7 inches. And this girl has none of the things that we probably have going for us in terms of like when she leaves school. School is sanctuary. Her freshman year, she said, we do like a grade report thing on Tuesdays every week. And it was like C, C, D, 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 D. And I was like, yeah, we gotta talk about this. What's with the D's? They said, well, the counselor said if I was passing all my classes, I could compete for sports. So that was her goal, right? To be passing all of her classes. No dad, no mom. She bounces around houses. And so I said, well, I'm gonna change that goal. Like, you have to have all C's by the end of the season, and she has all C's. And then, 2 years later, she's getting all A's. No one told her that there should be a bigger goal. And so the things that Riyadh was showing me freshman year is like, I so desperately want to make her feel successful with this throwing thing because I really thought she could throw far. She's like 6'1", and how I got Riyadh is a track athlete. At our pep rally for homecoming week in the fall, we have this like juniors and sophomores, freshmen and seniors round robin tug of war thing. And she's the anchor for the freshman team. And this girl walks out in the gym, I haven't seen her yet, walks out in the gym, and I'm like, who's that? And that girl is going to be a thrower. And so her freshman team beat the senior team. And then I think they lost to the juniors or something. Anyway, I'm like, I go straight to her after all the tug of wars, and I'm like, hi, I'm Joe Frontier. I teach art and I coach track and field, and you're going to be a thrower. She said, throw what? It's like, you're going to throw shot put, you're come out for track. She's like, oh, okay. So I so wanted her to feel successful, and I just felt like I could figure out a way to get her to glide. She ended up throwing 140 feet in the discus, and after her junior year, I said, do you want to rotate? Yes, that was the plan. This is August 30th, 2019. We can't coach our own kids during the high school season. So this is like the Friday before school starts on Monday. And this is her last glide throw because of COVID. She didn't have a senior year. 45.2. And she really figured a whole bunch of shit out, yeah. But her discus the season before, I'm like, we gotta turn her into a rotator. And then COVID happened, and yeah. Anyway, she rotates at Grand Valley City, and she's doing really well. But like, these are the test cases, at least for me. Okay, so for me, if you believe in the glide, coach the shit out of the glide, and get your kids to love the glide, and get your kids to throw far in the glide, because they need you to be passionate about what you're doing. If you don't believe in the rotational shot, and you want to start believing in it, spend time getting better at figuring out how to learn those skills, communicate those skills. There's so many resources out there. But I'm a big believer. I think someone asked me a weightlifting question in between sessions, and they were questioning whether they were doing the right thing. And I was like, does it make plausible sense what you're doing currently? Do you believe in it? Do you have confidence in it? Do you get your kids to come consistently? At the high school level, if their kids are coming consistently, you're going to get a workout in their way, they're going to get stronger, right? There's not a magic bullet of a weight program. So to me, my biggest advice, especially if you're young coaches out there, coach what you believe in, keep looking for new answers and new knowledge, but I don't want to stand here and say you should all coach rotationally. Here are some kids that have been very successful coaching the glide, even though I wish we could all be rotational throwers. That's my secret passion underneath, but I got to tell you those things. Okay, questions about maybe choosing who or how or why, or just based on that before we get into kind of some technical stuff. I don't want to separate program.
I know it's different for each person, but do you have a rough estimate of how long you try to do rotational before you say enough is enough? Let's try
That's the perfect question. I don't have a perfect answer. Here's what I'll say at the high school level. In my high school, there are certainly kids that come out for track, and you see them you see them move. Maybe it's the warm-up. Some of you else are more adept at figuring out, talent, identification. But if you have an idea, and you're watching these 4 kids more than you're watching the other 20 kids that you have, because you really think, those kids could. Those might be the kids that I put the litmus test or my own eye test on as we're doing these drills. Usually we'll get to the end of indoor season, and either kids have self-identified, I'm really frustrated, coach, and because if they don't believe it, they'll make that true too, right? They're fighting the rotational shot. Oh, yesterday I said 2 pet peeves. Do you guys remember my pet peeves from yesterday? Can I add one more pet peeve? I'm gliding just so I can get in the final, but then I'm gonna you just wait, Superman my shit in rotation for the last 3 throws. Or rotate, throw 1, foul. All of a sudden they come in and they're at the back of the ring, and I'm like, wait a second, and they're gliding on the 2nd throw. This is a pet peeve of mine, okay? That just means, hey, I have 6 opportunities to throw far today, believing in what I've been working on all week at practice. But since I don't believe in it, let's throw out all of those reps and just make some shit up, right? It's like, hey, you can buy 1 lottery ticket or buy all the lottery tickets. I'm just gonna pull this one. Maybe I'm gonna win this one. Just make a commitment. Don't change during the meet. But when to make the decision, trust your gut. That's kind of how I do it. I think kids will dictate it often where they don't believe that they can do it. And like those kids that you've identified where it's you do believe they can do it. And so I don't want them to give up. Invest your energy in the kids that are going to benefit from you believing in what you believe in. Believe in your system. I think I can get you there. Let's go on this journey together. And then, going back to that slide, yes, but this person, there's a lot of mental baggage, they're not great at school. I usually find kids that aren't good at school while they are good athletes, oftentimes I'm not saying aptitude, I'm saying does their ability match their effort? They usually end up doing about the same at the meet that matters the most, right? I've never had a kid like, I just got this last minute paper in, so I'm not feeling, so I go to the regional, and then, they set the state record at the regional the next day. No, that's the kid who fouls the last throw that was far enough, but it couldn't, but it doesn't count. So those kids, it's like, we got other things to square away. Where do you want to invest your energy? Invest it in helping them feel success. Maybe that piles into the classroom. Maybe the next year they come back, they're a better person, make that switch then. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't know if I have like a litmus test of like, if you get to this distance, then you're this. Because distance is so different for everybody. Okay. Should we get into it? Yes. Okay. So I needed to start here because my next slide I'm going to talk about only one of these and not all four of these. And some of my video, because I don't have a ton of video glidey stuff, some of this is old. That there's lots of ways to start the entry of the glide shot put. Basically, static start, just starting and pushing and kicking and going, probably is the simplest. Draw and go adds a little nuance. That's T. I should probably pause this, sorry. Let's just talk about each one of these individually, my bad. Full disclosure, this is Corinne. We saw some video of her yesterday. She was a rotator, I just made her do this shit. Sorry. Okay, static start. Basically knees together, body's not moving, this left leg isn't going to do any preamble to the throw. She's just going to unseat, push, and kick. Hopefully she unseats. This is not her normal thing. But basically she's just going to start from here and glide. Okay, so static start. Why do I like this? There's less variables for kids to screw up, right? And so if you're just having a base model, or this could just be a drill, and maybe they add things to this, but base model like, hey, I'm going to get into this crouch position. Yes, shoulders could be lower for some athletes higher. Some hips are lower. This is more closer to parallel. But basically this knee to knee, I'm flat on the right foot, left leg's going to push or kick extend towards the toe board before I unseat.